Greetings.
Greetings, human beings. Welcome to a place.
A place.
A place.
Indeed.
Indeed. A place between here and there, perhaps.
Mm.
So, congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be a little quicker on this one. Full disclosure, I need to be somewhere by actual 12. We're recording this one a little early. It's actually like 11:06 where we are, like, as of this recording, as we're saying this, or as I'm saying this. And I need to be somewhere at 9. So if I rush this one a little bit, forgive me. Well, I'm not going to rush it. That's not the word I should be using. If I am a bit more sparse on some details, it might be because I need to go. So this one might end up being... I'm going to try and make this a shorter video.
Yeah, if parts of it seem a little rushed and not complete, just note that we kind of told you that it's going to be rushed and incomplete. So.
Full disclosure, it's going to be one of the shorter videos. So, with that little discretion, with that little PSA out of the way, on to the video itself. So, oh, forgive me as I snap my spine. But the last few weeks, you've probably been noticed, if you watch our content regularly, that I've been promising you guys a Warframe review video, or kind of opinion video and everything, for the new update for Veilbreaker and Stynax, the 50th Warframe. They're celebrating their 50th character introduction to the game. And I keep lying to you and saying that we won't do that every week. I promise that. Well, congratulations. I'm finally actually telling the truth this time. We're actually doing a review video. We're actually looking at Stynax. We're actually looking at Veilbreaker. I told the truth, guys. Let's celebrate together. Yay! Anyways.
Celebrate.
Celebrate. Do you see the applause sign from like the original Aladdin? Applause, please.
Applause now. Applause now.
Now. Applause now, honestly. You just see the sign just appear. But, yeah, so, Warframe and Stynax. Sadly, we can't provide any Warframe gameplay because Justin does not play Warframe.
No.
That's okay, though, because Warframe is kind of like Destiny in that it does require a lot of time to get into. I would argue, as a longtime Warframe veteran myself, way more than Destiny by a long shot, so that's understandable. Have a nice day. And he provides the gameplay, so while I'm a well-seasoned Warframe veteran, he is not, so that's why we're showing you Stellaris instead, so
yes.
Sorry.
Enjoy the Protoss as they inevitably run into the Singhali Flood and some random Forerunners.
Charming. I feel like you'd be the first person in the war to be like, so we've got a problem, yeah? It's an invading army. Use the bioweapon! But bioweapons are illegal. Use the bioweapon!
Use the purifiers!
Use the purifiers! Just like have like a nuclear warhead. You'll be the first person to click it. Just
the best race to go to the Halo universe, the Protoss. Purge everything.
Purge it in fire. Fucking go full on Warhammer 40k. Purge it in flame. Burn.
Kill, maim, burn.
I just got a freaking quote from Russian Badger where it's just like, the forces of chaos that make the world, like a civilian casualty World War II look like a thing. He just sees the freaking goes to the Wikipedia list and it's just like, list of Khornate massacres. Khorne being one of the fucking gods. It's just like, this list is incomplete. List of Khornate massacres. This list is incomplete. You can help by expanding it.
You can expand this list, you know.
For Khorne! Anyways. Anyways, back to Warframe. Going off topic, go to Warhammer. That's a completely different ball of wax. So, Warframe. Where to begin? Well, let's start with Stynax himself. Actually, no, let's start with Veilbreaker. Let's start with Veilbreaker and I'll leave Stynax for a little later. So, Veilbreaker is a continuing story mission, kind of like a sub-story, that introduces, as always, a few new features to Warframe. In the form of the kind of the reintroduction of a character that was shown in the new war game, or the new war campaign, Call 175. Now, if you play Warframe, you'll probably know who Call 175 is. But for those who don't know, quick introduction. Call is basically a clone soldier. Think, he's part of the Grineer, so quick introduction on who they are. Think Clone Wars, but this time, a lot, I want to say lower tech compared. Yeah, no, a lot lower tech, I'd say. well, not too much, but
Lower and
lower.
to an extent.
They're still using bullets, not lasers, so.
Yeah.
But they've still got, like, spaceships and stuff, so there's a bit of groundwork for you. Again, Warframe lore is deep and confusing at times, so I won't go too much into who the Grineer are. But basically, think clones from Star Wars, but a bit lower tech. And they are all mind-controlled, well, not mind-controlled, they're all pre-programmed to be loyal to their twin queens, so. And they are kind of viewed as simpletons because of that very reason, because they don't do much in the way of high-end intelligence for that reason. They're just kind of like, you are bred to fight and die, which will happen probably sooner than later, so yeah.
Good luck.
So,
Off you
yeah,
go.
good luck. Because of this fact that they're all programmed to be loyal to the Twin Queens, who are enemies to the character you play as in Warframe, you can imagine the idea of Grineer companions not being all that common, and for the most part, you'd be right. There is a little bit of a lore bit where there is a faction you can actually side with in the game, one of the factions, that is built up of basically defective Grineer that have basically rebelled against the Queen. The reason they're called defective is because their loyalty gene, as it's called, the thing that programs them to be loyal to the Queens, either, just doesn't work, or, when they were cloned, just didn't function properly, so they're not, predisposed to the loyalty. And 9 times out of 10, when you're born into a murdering kind of galaxy-spanning empire of rotting simpleton clones, as they are sometimes referred to, you probably don't want to be a part of that group anymore and seek a better life. So they have done just that and have basically rebelled. And, there's 2 types of them in a way. There's the Grineer defectors who just kind of go off and fight for their own shtick. And then there's what's known as the Kavor, who are basically Grineer that when they basically had their wake-up moment were like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do any more fighting, actually. I'm just going to go live in a pacifist colony somewhere else.
I'm about to head out.
Yeah, I'm just going to head out. I'm just going to wash my hands of this war and leave. And there are some missions where you actually help them evacuate from, for example, their galleons that they're still trapped on because of reasons. But yeah, a little bit of the Grineer history aside. For that reason, like I said, not many Grineer allies. This particular one is another exception to the rule, and in a much interesting way. So, call 175, now that you kind of have a brief glimpse of what the Grineer are and look like. Well, not look like, they're very unique looking. But now that you have a brief kind of idea of what the Grineer are, as a species, shall we say, you kind of get the idea that, like I said, Grineer allies not that common. Call, like I said, an exception to that rule. So, shtick of him kind of goes like this. Because I'm going to have to explain a little bit of Call's origins. Well, actually, I'm just going to explain Call's origins. It's not that complicated. So we can get into Veilbreaker, because it's literally tied to him. So, during the war, there was this big war that breaks out in the galaxy. And the Grineer, like all the other factions, are trying to fight to hold their territories, because there's a whole new species that comes in, called the Sentients, that tries to start a war, and basically are very successful at fighting war. So, yeah, it's pretty one-sided for basically everyone except the character you play as in their species. But again, whole other ball of wax we won't get into, because, like I said, I'm kind of pressed for time here.
Yep.
But, I might delve into them later, because we're not, no, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Regardless, the Grineer fight and keep their territory, and Call is, one of the faceless grunts among them. Actually, no, I think I will go into this war. They're basically a war fought by sentients, so the name kind of says it all. They're basically sentient drones. So basically the Borg, except a lot more alien looking. But,
So,
yeah.
in other words, robotic
No,
flood.
not the Borg, the Vex.
The Vex.
Yeah,
There
that's
you
probably a better acronym, because they're way more biological. Actually, no. What's just pure robot? Let's just think Decepticons. That works.
Yeah,
That works.
just think Autobot and Decepticon. There you go. That works.
That pretty much works, minus the, hulking ton, Minus the
giant form, just robot.
Though in fairness, some of them can be that big or bigger. They are more the exceptions than the rule. Most of the ground troops are basically like human size. But regardless. So yeah, they've come back, and they're quite successful at fighting wars because of their ability to adapt to just about everything, including damage. So very successful, and Call is one of the ground troops of this kind of battlefield, which takes place on Earth, where the Grineer are particularly powerful. His entire squad is wiped out and stuff like that, and he reports to a character known as Vahek, who's a legendary character in the game and quite memed to hell and back. Breathing Vahek's air. You know what that meme is? You know Vahek. Who are these fools?
What are you
still
doing
breathing
here?
my air.
Get off my planet!
But yeah, no. Vahek. He is funny just to listen to. But anyways. So yeah. Everything is wiped out. Call's like, I will do this and try and fight back. And it turns out he's actually he's quite powerful. These sentients are so tough that one of them alone can give an actual player in-game trouble if you're not, you don't know what you're doing. And then you just see Call just ripping through them with like a machete at first. So if you know who the characters are, you just look at them like, God dang. The Grineer are usually like one-shot cannon fodder. This guy's just ripping through the higher level enemies by himself. Damn. But so yeah, he does all that. In the end, he ends up going to where the sentients are kind of based around, and he basically tries a suicide mission where, I would say that will get us demonetized, but we're not monetized yet, so that's fine.
Yeah, we're fine.
We're fine. So he attempts a suicide mission and basically takes a massive bomb and just straps it to himself. And he's like, he'll blow himself up. And his final words were going to be like, usually the Grineer constantly like, for the queens, because, they're loyal to the queens, right? But after everything, he's just like, for my brothers. And he just tries to blow himself up. Doesn't happen, because lore reasons. A character I don't know if stops would be the word. Just uses sentient things to cause the bomb to short circuit, just not work, I guess. I don't know. Never really explained how he does that, but he does. And we don't know what happens to Call. There are several other characters that share a similar fate. I think one or two in particular. No, one other, and that's Vizo, who's the Corpus version of Call. Just in the case of the new war, he's not half as badass as Call, though. Well, depends on who you ask, I guess. But, yeah. So that's kind of Call's backstory. We kind of didn't know what happened to Call, and he became quite famous in the Warframe community. It was really fun to play as him. Everyone's like, what happened to Call? So that brings us all the way back to Veilbreaker. Now that I've done your little Warframe history lesson.
Yes.
Did we learn anything today, children?
What did we learn?
What did we learn? You learned about the Grineer, and you learned that a Grineer named Call is apparently a badass. So long as you remember that part.
Moving on.
Moving on. But yeah, Veilbreaker. Veilbreaker basically takes us back to Call, who turns out survived the war. Now, again, a little bit of history lesson here. The Veil is apparently this thing that the Sentients were trying to accomplish. Well, technically one particular character wasn't affiliated with the Sentients that kind of struck a deal with them, but again, long story. But long story short, this has you reapprise your role as Call. And it turns out he survived the war. And now he's stuck on some sentient ship. So, basically, the shtick kind of goes like this. At first, you receive this message from another lore-important character who's like, hey, I wanted to help out during the war, but for reasons related to the plot, I was not able to. I want to help out, and do something, though. hit against the sentience, even though technically the war's over, but, you know, whatever. So anyways, they go to this ship, which apparently the distress signal is being broadcasted from, and they thought, hey, someone might have survived, you know, da-da-da-da-da. Only to find out the distress signal is being sent by, of all people, Paul, who apparently is alive on this ship and managed to survive. And through a cutscene, you kind of see what happens. So anyways, he's alive, and a fun fact about the Grineer, even during their previous occupation, way before they became the people they are today, they were still viewed by their creators, because again, they're all genetic clones. Someone had to make them first. That would be the Orokin. Think Forerunners from Halo, though a lot more narcissistic.
Ah, yes. In no way did we need more of them.
No, we do. Yeah, no. That seems to be a trend for, like, ancient civilizations in a way. For a long time, everyone's like, the Orokin, this advanced civilization that, you know, that may have been humans way back when, and da-da-da-da-da-da. I wonder what they were like and everything else, and then eventually when their lore gets flushed out, like, several years later, it's like, oh yeah, they were a bunch of narcissistic
They were
assholes.
just asses. Complete and
Yeah,
utter
they were
ass.
just asses. They were just utter asses. They did terrible things. They abducted children, literally. They experimented on humans, literally. They did a bunch of terrible things, bunch of genetic experiments. They are not moral in the slightest, by the by. Everyone's like,
I
I see.
see.
What is it
Time
with
to
ancient
die.
civilizations? What is it with ancient civilizations turning out to be just utter monsters?
Why not?
Why not?
It must be done.
Must be done. But anyways, so one of the characters is actually, that brings us in a way back to the lore relevant character in which you get all this from, who is basically a character known as Daughter. She's one of the surviving Orkin, again through reasons related to the plot. Now, the Orkin, being the assholes they are, didn't think much of anything other than themselves. The Grineer, who were literally a caste of slave clones they built for physical labor, even less so. Which, for the Orkin, is saying a lot. But it's kind of funny, because Call being Call, when they first, like, get to the message, right? And she's like, oh, you know, we're here to save you. And she's like, wait a minute. A tube rat, which I guess is, you know, Orokin slur for a Grineer. You know, she's just regretting everything. She's like, oh, it's just a freaking Grineer, da-da-da-da-da. And Call's just like, you help me save my brothers, yes? And so I'm not even jesting with that kind of speech.
Help you.
Honestly, I'm not even jesting with that speech pattern. The Grineer can be, have very simple speech when it comes to a lot of things. So that's another reason why they're viewed as simpletons in a way. Because their speech, while proper English, well, they can't speak proper English. Even their language is like versions of broken English, albeit like their Grineer tongue. Regardless. So they can't come off as idiots. But yeah, she's like, I'm not, you know, not helping you free your people, da 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 da. And she's like, oh, we came here to learn about, you know, this specific lore-relevant character, which was introduced this update. I can't remember his name. I think it was like, I honestly don't remember what it was called. It's some new villain. And Call's like, I know who that is.
I know them.
But I not tell you until you help me.
You help me, I help you.
So begins the mission where you're basically running around again as Call, freeing your brothers, as he now calls them, because now he kind of has no loyalty towards the queens anymore. You know, after his whole For His Brother shtick, he's kind of been traumatized to the point where he's like, to hell with the queens. He you know, frees other Grineer as well, and some of them are like, for the queens, and he's like, no, the queens left us to die. For the brothers now.
Brother.
So, yeah. He even frees a few of the other faction members that he kind of takes into his new family, shall we say. But also kind of left to die.
Yes.
It's quite a fun mission, in the end. Eventually you do leave the sentient ship with your brothers in tow. I'm saying brother so much this. Every time I do now, I'm just getting Warhammer flashbacks. Brother, brother, brother.
Brother.
Honest, honestly, with how badass Call is, he's just basically like the Grineer's version of a freaking of a freaking Astartes. Just a fucking walking tank who's just ripping through everything with like a machete.
Brother, can I help you?
Honestly, brother, can I help you? Whack! Purge the heretics! Honestly.
Purge
how
this
Call
from your soul.
Honestly, things like a machete. At one point, you literally have this moment where he like yanks a machine gun off a freaking broken drop ship, and you can just walk around with with like a machine gun and just just rip through everything. Honestly, you could pull a freaking Spartan, yank off a machine gun, and just walk
Get
around with a
moving.
freaking heavy machine gun. And the fun part about this section is the machine gun's magazine refills. So it's a bottomless magazine. You don't have to worry about running out of ammo. You just take this thing and just absolutely rip through everything. It's actually, like I said, it's quite fun. It's a short mission, but it's quite fun. Which has led to some memes that I, read on some videos where it's like, Metal Call Solid. But,
Yes.
But anyways. And it is funny, the banter between Call and everything, because you see this character, again, Daughter, kind of constantly talking shit to him because he's Call. And Call just being like, well...
Don't care. Brothers need help.
Yeah, honestly, where it's just like, first is like, lead me to weapon. And they're like, fine, I'll lead you to the weapon, but then you tell us. And he picks up the weapon, and he's now armed, and the Daughter's like, okay, I got you the weapon. Now about that information, now you help brothers. That's not what we agreed on. Now you help brothers.
It's like, this is not the arrangement. The arrangement changed.
Honestly. In the end, he does end up telling about the character. And we actually bring him back to the little camp that we've set up that we get actually during the plot of the war of the not the secondary war. What's the war called? Oh my god, I can't remember my Warframe lore now. Basically, the war between the Sentients and everyone else. That was previously mentioned. Again, I can't remember the dang thing. But yeah, no. And he comes back there, and funny enough, now it opens up weekly missions where we get to go out as Call and kind of, free more brothers and stuff like that. And he's actually planning to like grow the camp that he's sectioned there, because when you first get him, he's like just sitting there in a little tent. You can actually customize this character with like different Grineer stuff. So it is in a way kind of nice to have a Grineer character that's, an ally that's not tied to the factions, because funny thing about the factions, actually, they all hate each other as well. So if you side with one faction, you're also making enemies of at least 2 others.
Yes. The enjoyment of alliances.
Now, you can constantly swap back and forth between the factions. In fact, they actually just updated the faction system with this update where you can... it used to be that you would buy, like, a sigil from them, right? And you put that on your character, and while you ran missions, you gain reputation with them passively. But now there's also the system where... But now they've kind of scrapped the system. You can still buy the symbols, right? And they still look cool and stuff like that. But now how you can gain reputation is you make pledges to that faction. So it's like, I pledge to them, and that gets you the reputation. Now, Warframe being Warframe, you can always rescind this pledge and pledge to somebody else at no charge or repercussions. But yeah, so the faction system may look terrifying where it's like, ah crap, if I side with one, in most games that's I will never be able to side with them. No, you can just kind of hot swap pledges and other factions. In fact, there's actually some really cool gear that some of the factions all offer, like weapons that can heal you on like heavy hits, and weapons that can get you a lot more currency when you kill an enemy. like double the amount, which in some cases can be a lot.
Yep.
So, you know, it's
Just a little good.
really, it's, you know, it's depending on who you are, it's worth in a way, you know, at least having one faction representative you're pledged to. I myself am pledged to the Corpus, which ironically or the version of Corpus that broke off from the Corpus. Kind of
The
like
corpus from the corp.
Kind of like that whole shtick where there's some Grineer that don't agree with the methodology, and so kind of broke off and made their own thing, which we kind of talked about earlier. That same kind of concept applied to the Corpus, though in this case, the Corpus, who are all mercantile and believe violence will bring the most profit, the faction that broke off with them was like, no, we don't think war brings profit. We think peace brings profit. So, yeah.
Yes.
And because I'm the mercantile bastard that I am, I sided with them.
Yes. Why not?
For the board.
It
Not for the
must-
queens, it's for the board.
It must be done.
But, regardless, that's Veilbreaker, like I said. It's a fun little quest, lets you play around as Call again, and opens up the possibility of going out with him weekly to do missions, which I think have unique rewards as well. But, also it introduces the idea of, you know, building up that camp, which we might see, who knows how that will be played out in future expansions. So that's kind of Veilbreaker for you. Like I said, it's kind of the epilogue to the whole, not New War. That's the name of the war. Not very creative, I admit. Yeah, but don't blame me. That's the game's fault. That's the narrative department's fault. But regardless, that's like I said, Veilbreaker. It's like I said, an epilogue to the New War, which is the aforementioned war we talked about earlier, which is basically sentience v everyone.
Yes.
Which they actually end up winning. But, again, whole story for a whole other video. So yeah,
There you go.
before I get into the second half of this video, what do you think about all that, Justin? Did you understand any of my ramblings?
No, I understood it. It does seem interesting to go and bring back that character in full, like the character they introduced quite a while ago in like full force now, narratively wise. Because they kind of had him, they introduced him, you played as him for like a moment, and then it was like, okay, what's going on now? And then all of a sudden he comes back, bursts through the door, brother!
Honestly, brother!
Literally his
yeah,
catchphrase,
no.
just brother!
Honestly, that's his mantra now. It's like, instead of for the queens, it's for the brothers.
My brothers need me.
But, yeah.
Yeah. I kind of would say that seems pretty interesting and definitely something looking forward to for the people looking into that content. It's always good to see a game expand on like the characters and the races and make it go from like very simple one-dimensional like to, oh god, they're evolving.
They're evolving. Oh no, what are they gonna do?
They're finally changing. Now I have to worry about their politics too now.
But like I said, it's nice to see a sect of Grineer and potentially other characters, depending on who Call recruits, that are not associated with the queens and the other factions, so you can just kind of side with them without fear of repercussion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually kind of funny, because in a camp, there's literally a kind of like it literally says communication system, and you click on it, and it'll show like and you'll get like little bits of dialogue between like the daughter and Call, who seem to be developing this kind of friendly relationship with each other, despite literally because at first hating each other. And at first, sometimes she'll just scream at Call, and then Call will just be like, "Hey, you deal with it," and cuts the
Your
communication.
problem.
Your problem. Click. It
I
is
don't
funny
care.
to see them. It is funny to see them talk back and forth, especially because, like I said, Call and daughter are kind of two very kind of favorite characters in the lore. Like I said, Call's whole shtick in the New War, he's probably the only character in the New War that was introduced that people are like, oh yeah, that's a really cool character. I want more of that guy.
I want to see where this guy goes.
So yeah, they brought him back.
There you go. Well, that's good to see.
But yeah, so that brings me on to the second half of this video, as previously mentioned, Steinax. I'm kind of running short on time, so I'm kind of rushing this through, but that's okay, because this is the much easier part.
Yep.
It's literally just new Warframe.
Yep.
So as you are not if you're not aware, Warframe is a game where you can pick other, characters known as frames, and you play them in missions. Now, I'll spare you the whole details as to how that works, but there's actually also a main character, that you also get to play as. But again, other lore reasons aside, think of it like a hero game, but these heroes are all connected to one person in a way. Again, it's weird. I'm running short on time, so I cannot explain the frames to you. I'm so sorry.
Apologies.
But anyways, the most recent frame got introduced recently, known as Steinax, the 50th frame to be added to the game. It's a big celebration for Warframe because the devs themselves even said they never thought they'd get this far. But here we are. We've finally made Steinax. And I don't know if you still can, but there was a point where once they released him, that if you just logged into the game, they'd be like, ah, cool, celebrating the 50th Warframe, here's him for free. Click.
Here you go.
Which is a big deal, because the funny thing is, grinding for frames can actually be quite challenging at times. Like, there's two ways to get a frame. You can buy them in the cash shop, for platinum, which is a premium currency, or you can grind for them. Now, there's nothing in Warframe you cannot grind for yourself. It's just the grind can at times be arduous. And there are, in some ways, a little bit of RNG associated with it. In some frames, a lot less worse than others. Like, the scale is pretty large when it comes to RNG relating to frames. But yeah, there's nothing in Warframe you cannot grind for. As of right now, they have not revealed how you can get Steinax. Alternatively, you can't even buy them in the cash shop. Like, there is still, I believe, in the celebration mode of, 50th Warframe, you come and you get them for free. Once that ends, though, I'm sure they're going to reveal how you can actually get him in-game, and then they'll also open up the ability to purchase him straight up if you want to. So if you play Warframe currently, I would check that. I did not even know that till I logged in myself and saw that. So maybe you might be able to get him still, maybe not. You'll have to see. And what is this new frame modeled around? Because every Warframe has their own, shall we say, shtick that they're modeled around. Like, one of them is Necros, and he's a necromancer, and another one is, Inaros, and he's kind of Egyptian mummy themed and stuff like that. Well, Steinax is modeled after, of all things, a Spartan. Literally, not the Halo one. The original Spartan we're talking about here.
I mean, Spartan.
Because I mentioned that word.
Halo Spartan is a reference to those Spartans, so no matter what, you are tailing to them.
Just checking.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, the whole name Spartan.
Just saying.
Yes. But
because sometimes I mention Spartan, people are like, oh, Halo?
Yeah. But needless to say, Spartans, original Roman time, Greek Spartan.
Technically, it's a Hierophant or something that he's modeled after, which are basically the old, Spartan spearmen who used to just go out there. 300? You ever seen that movie? Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
There you go.
Same kind of thing. Shirtless dude with a shield and stick. That's Steinax for you.
Interesting.
And he's actually quite powerful. So everyone's just been going around, this is Sparta! And just wiping everyone out.
Spartan.
He's even got a shield as part of his... He's even got a literal shield and spear gun.
There you go.
Spear guns are an actual side weapon, but the shield is actually a part of his kit. Everyone's like, dang, great missed opportunity to have like an arcane sword and shield for his like super ability, where he just takes out his shield and just takes out his sword and shield and just goes nuts. But we have a few too many arcane weapons in the game, so
yeah, no. One thing at a time.
So now they just made a spear gun as a just straight up weapon that you can buy or build to equip to him if you want to, and he does bonus damage with spears, so that's a good thing. But yeah, no. One of his particular abilities is literally he'll jump up, create a massive amount of just phantom spears, and then just hurl them all towards the enemy.
What does that remind me of? Reminds me of something specific. I can't put my finger on it.
If you ever seen the Fate series, you know exactly kind of the first unlimited spear works.
Yes.
Then of Unlimited Brother works where he just snaps his fingers and you see like a bunch of swords appear behind him. This time it's just a bunch of spears. But yeah, no. Apparently he's actually really strong. I've not had the chance to play with him myself because I was playing on a few of my other frames. But apparently, yeah, no, he's he's very strong. Um, but yeah, that's Steinax for you. He actually, funny enough, to celebrate his 50th-ness, they even made a animated trailer that kind of tells the backstory of Steinax. There is a thing called the Levirian in-game that kind of tells the backstory of some frames that they introduced a while back. They're kind of flushing out. Because some frames that... originally they would just introduce frames and that would just kind of be the end of it. Fun fact about Warframe, they kind of retroactively tacked on the lore. Because it was based on, let's get the gameplay right first and have like a bit of hints towards the story later. But now they're actually really trying to get into the story because they got the gameplay loop down.
There you go.
Fun fact, Warframe is made by Digital Extremes, who, if you don't know, are the guys that made Unreal Tournament back in the day. So,
There you go.
there is some pedigree behind this game. Old pedigree, but it's there.
Yeah, nevertheless, it is there.
Fun fact, there's even like a thing they did a while back where you can actually get some skins for some weapons in the game that are literally the skins that make your weapons look like the Unreal Tournament weapons. Like some of the more famous ones, like the Dragoon and stuff like that. I remember playing with Dragoon. But, anyways, like I said, that's Steinax. He came in, oh yeah, the Levirin I was talking about. Forgot about that. Like I said, the Levirin exists where they're kind of retroactively adding some lore into some of the Warframes. Because sometimes Warframes will be released with, like, a side story mission related to them, which will kind of explain their story. So then you don't need a Levirin entry because the story is already there. But some cases, for like example Steinax, where they did not bring him along with a mission, or at least a mission related to him specifically, they kind of have these things where the Levirian will kind of tell the backstory of the frame. Well, they have a Levirian for him that they introduced with his release, but they also had the animated trailer, which, instead of just showcasing his frame, actually also shows the kind of actual events of the backstory mentioned in the Levirian. And it's actually a really cool looking trailer. Link to both the Veilbreaker trailer as well as said animated Steinax trailer in the description. I'd recommend you check out the Steinax one. It's actually really cool. But yeah, so that's Steinax. Newest frame, 50th Warframe. You may still be able to get him for free, like I said, if you log in. Though I would prefer you do that sooner than later if you're going to do that. Or I should say, I would advise you to do that sooner than later if you're going to do that. Because it's been a while since that's happened, so I don't know if it's still going on. So yeah, there's your other PSA for you.
There you go.
And yeah, that about covers things. Like I said, haven't had a chance to play with Steinax all too much. I was playing on some other frames of mine. Not Chroma, but I can't remember who I was playing as. I think it was one of my primes.
I'm playing as someone.
Someone. Sadly, I have Inaros, but Inaros is not a powerful frame.
Nah.
So sad too, because he's like a really cool themed frame, but whatever.
What can you do?
But yeah, that's the video. So, like I said, hopefully it was shorter than usual. Most of that was in Veilbreaker, because like I said, there's a lot more to talk about in Veilbreaker versus Steinax, who is just new lore, new Warframe. Fun fact actually about Steinax, apparently he was actually worked on for over 3 months, which is way longer than the incubation time of most other frames, so it shows you that they were really committed to getting this frame right, and I think
they
actually...
wanted it to be out and done right the first time rather than worrying about it later.
But also they wanted to get the kind of feel and everything right.
Yeah,
Apparently it was
they wanted to make sure it was nice and baked in the oven real well.
Yeah, well, I believe it was. They said DE, like Rebecca over at DE, who was the one who recommended they do this one. It was kind of her kind of desired frame. She used to be the community manager at Digital Streams. Now she's moved on to game director because the old guys are moving on to their new game. So yeah,
There you go.
fun fact for you. But anyways, that's the video.
Yes. Hopefully you all enjoyed and got something out of it for you Warframe fans, and content to look forward to with your new character. You can definitely rip and tear with that.
Yep. Hope you enjoyed the video. Next week we'll probably be covering Sea of Thieves. That was like it was either this or it was either this or Sea of Thieves. But we chose this, so
There you go. We'll be probably getting out the Sea of Thieves content soon enough, so don't worry.
yep. So anyways, as always, thanks for watching, like, subscribe, and the rest. And as always, good night.
Have a good one.